What is up, everyone, and welcome to the final Lost Skies Skywatch. Today we are covering the official final Skywatch update, as well as all the latest information that the devs have shared regarding the official release of Lost Skies, which is set for September 17th of this year. Now, there have been a ton of questions going around in the community regarding what will and won't be in the official release, so today we're going to outline the main highlights of what's coming to the game, then get into some of the more minor details of what's been happening around the development of the game itself and exactly why the devs are releasing this seemingly out of nowhere. But regardless, as of August 27th, the devs dropped the latest Lost Skies trailer for the game's official release, which overviewed a video of the combat in the game, going against the different game creatures, game mini-bosses, as well as the brand new and fully implemented area bosses of each of the respective regions, of which that does include the latest autumn-style game region with brand new enemy types, puzzles, and unique architecture. First off, the devs begin by simply thanking everyone in the community for helping to contribute to detecting all of the many bugs and issues and providing vast amounts of feedback, respectively. I also mentioned the devs released a 1,300 word document iterating on all of the major bugs that were fixed since the time that they made the game post, alongside another 1,300 word document written by Tom Jackson, one of the game developers and father of the island creator for the game, which iterated on all the recent issues and problems that they've been working through to solve, not just in the bugs that they've dealt with, but in solving many of the ship data issues and entity data issues that comes with scaling out a massive world to handling a bunch of character and entity data, alongside his solution that should hopefully solve most to all of the major bug issues that players were seeing in the early access drop of the game, which I plan to make a whole separate video of covering in detail in the future. However, getting to the actual details of the Skywatch's new content, the devs mention a brand new quality of life and UI overhaul, where the crafting system is getting more standardized fonts, styling, and colors, with new categories being added across build menus for easier navigation, and autofill option for crafting slots to speed up that process of actually making something. Also, a full implementation for Steam achievements, changes to ADS sensitivity and player settings, as well as universal lighting improvements that comes alongside that. Now, with all these changes, we have brand new islands for each respective region of the game, which, to clarify, for the 1.0 release of the game, there are going to be 4 distinct regions of the game, where the original 54 islands in the game have now been expanded to 120, between 4 different regions in total. These being the Green Pines, the Azure Grove, the Atlas Heights, and lastly, the Midlands, in which the devs show us some stunning pictures of different islands made in the Midlands region as of late, some of which seem to include, in the distance far off, a new type of weather wall for the game, which we haven't yet been shown, let alone hinted at what it actually does until now. Now, this takes on a red/orange hue, which appears to be very similar to what many of you may remember from the sand wall in World's Adrift. However, it will be different, which takes us into the new cloudscape and atmosphere changes coming to Lost Skies, where Luke and Tony have been working on the new comfort system implementation. In short, the more effort that you put into decorating your ship, the more rested you will become. Furnishings like plants and other cozy type items on the ship itself will cumulatively grant you increased buffs while in your ship itself, which will then be carried out in addition for a set timer of, say, improved regeneration, improved strength, whatever that buff might be, for a set amount of time when you leave your ship, meaning that you have more benefits for actually staying on your ship for a period of time during fights or before you go exploring into more dangerous areas. In addition to this, Claudia has been putting in tremendous effort into transforming the skies that you travel through, where she mentions the new map includes an update to the cloud visuals, introducing a new cloudscape for each region. As you progress into later regions, not only will the islands and wildlife have their own specific palettes, but the sky also changes given to each respective region and its own look, making ship exploration and island discovery more engaging. In the first region, we're starting out in the Green Pines, which has a fluffy, towering clouds with more islands and more visibility positioned near the peaks of those, which contain steep cloud valleys to put your ship's flight systems to the test. The second region will be the Azure Grove. Here, the skies region clears up some more, however, more islands will often be hidden down in the lower valleys area. Here, the sunsets will create a more purple hue for many of the islands and their blue foliage, and that will also change in respective to the actual foliage you see across multiple islands in succession, where you'll get a clear view of the different world weather barriers to help with your journeying forward. The third region will be a place called Atlas Heights. Here you'll enter a darker and completely new cloudscape region that holds a more scary and looming feel. In this region, the stormy weather has infused with the Atlas terrain, causing foliage to glow in Atlas colors. Islands here have also become scattered between tall cloud arches, meaning that open space will be hidden where many different seraphs reside. Where the devs mentioned you will need to be very alert when flying through here and keep an eye on those storm clouds. In the final region, you will enter the Midlands. Here you must pass through the red storm walls. Beyond them lies a vast teal sky with long visibility distance. With islands resting on a thin layer of misty clouds, diving under this layer can uncover more secret islands to explore that you may have not once seen, in which it seems to imply there will be a ton of cool area types and mechanics for the game coming in this launch. In addition, the devs also explain some of the types of weather walls, explaining how the weather walls will be tough to navigate challenges designed to put your ships to the test. Here they explain the wind walls, which are found between the first two regions, which will shred your sails and require engines to push through. The second wind wall between the Azure Grove and Atlas Heights will be a stronger wind wall type, where the rain and debris will be battering your ship in addition to all the previous damage effects of the first wind wall. Lastly, we have the storm walls, the ultimate test, which is found between Atlas Heights and the Midlands, describing by the devs as raging tempests with dramatic lightning strikes that will push your ships to the test and the limits of their power and endurance, which they also seem to have provided a small gift for that demonstrates some of the lightning strikes that we'll actually experience, which seem to have electrical indicators of charge that kind of show where they're about to strike and actually jolt the ship as you're trying to fly through that storm wall and get into that next region. Next up, we have the new sound design, in which Ollie has been designing a ton of new creatures to populate the skies, in particular ones for Region 4's biome. In addition to these new creatures, Mark has been comprising an entirely new soundscape for the expanded world, where all 4 regions will have a distinct musical identity with many tracks that uniquely fit to each area's theme, where it's mentioned that each of the weather walls will also have their own soundtracks as well. With this, we also have a new release of the knowledge system. This allows you to recycle unwanted schematics and gain a new currency called Drift, likely a callback to the predecessor World's Drift that we all know and love. When you find a schematic, you can either learn it or salvage it for Drift. This currency is also obtainable from scanning databanks as well, which can then be used at a research table to level up and upgrade schematics, which I personally am very glad to hear, since in the early access, one of my biggest personal issues in the game was coming across many duplicate schematics that I couldn't have a use for, but can now be finally useful to collect and hold on to. Not only so that it can be converted into Drift, but that so many different pools or iterations of schematic types that I collect can be used for different benefits that I prefer for different aspects of my ship. Next, we also have additional flora and fauna. Here, the art team has been creating some stunning new assets for 1.0, where Ollie in particular has been designing and implementing AI for a host of new species to fill the skies, which have unique behaviors and drop special recipes. First of which we have the Adderbane, which the devs describe as a creature whose evolutionary pressures from the Midlands have forced it to evolve with the ability to generate toxic saliva, which when charging it traps the targets in a maze of poison miasma, where the creature also has strong melee, but also for long range needs can fire poisonous ranged spit attacks to get anything that's too far. Next we have the Thornet, which is an aerial ambush predator that languishes high in the skies, waiting for the perfect moment to drop like a spear onto unsuspecting prey, and likely do powerful damage. In addition to this, we also have the Harpies, these creatures for which rely on their excellent hearing to track down prey that once located gets battered with multiple sonic screeches. Devs also mentioned that adult Harpies pair bond for life, raising juvenile broods that they protect jealously from any threat, where thanks to their powerful wings and frames, they move extremely swiftly. Lastly, from the new Midland creatures are the Modus Beetle Husk, a heavily armored cave bug that moves extremely quickly. It uses its sensitive hearing to find threats and launch powerful burrows and attacks and projectiles, which if caught in its melee attack can launch the player many meters into the air in a disorienting tumble. Next up, we have bosses and sky enemies. One of the most frequently mentioned pieces of feedback the devs received during early access was wanting more combat encounters and threats in the skies, where they mentioned that they have done this by adding many additional points of interest guarded by enemies surrounding randomly spawned rock formations within the clouds, which allows you to choose to engage or disengage depending on whether you think the risk is worth the reward. In addition, they fleshed out the boss hierarchy. The first boss type we have is the Arbiters. These are smaller scale bosses that you will encounter in every region that have growing foliage on each respective to each area of the game. Now, in addition, we also have the Heralds, which are large formidable bosses that roam the skies of the Azure Grove and Atlas Heights, which respectively refer to the second and third regions of the game. And lastly, we have the latest and brand new final boss type, the Harbinger. This is the ultimate Seraph found within the Midlands only, which will truly put the test of your ship, crew, and gear all the way to its limits. Next, we have the Sky Travel, thanks to the lead designer Luke, who has made the ship progression get a complete and major overhaul based directly on the feedback from everyone in the community. Beforehand, it was noticed that stats from leveling materials weren't always creating major impacts on ship capabilities, so the team has redone the system to make the rare materials provide a substantial boost to your ship. The leveling cap for all ship parts have now been increased to 50, and you can now find subcomponents, things like propellers, barrels, wingtips with randomized schematic stat rolls, which allows for deep customization of even some with brand new stats like energy efficiency to reduce power costs. In addition, the devs have also added fuel tanks, also rig controls, whatever that means, which they did not specify, and a bunch of new furniture and decorations for your ship that all create different ship character buffs as well as health regeneration and strength. Lastly, given this is the final Skywatch and likely specific Skywatch video on this channel, unless there are more updates coming in the future, as we've been covering for the last few years, the devs left a message directly from the head of studio, which I will be reading out for you. Then afterwards, addressing my and what I believe the community's opinion on why the game actually is releasing so early. The letter begins saying, "Hi all, I know you don't hear from me much on here, but trust that I am a frequent visitor and lurker of most of the communication of the team. Saying that it is the last Skywatch, Adam and myself thought it was fitting for me to say a few words. First off, it's been an amazing experience building this game with the community from basically the beginning. Your work and feedback has been invaluable to us, and it's been an absolute joy seeing videos, comments from you all when we release builds and new features. Making games is a real pleasure, and when you're making them with people that also have the same passion, this community and Lost Skies team here at Bossa have gelled superbly. It's made the hard work that's gone into this game feel more like a hobby than work for all of us. Secondly, I want to thank everyone that's played the builds, fed back, given your opinions good or bad, designed and built islands, made videos, anything that has helped make this game possible. We're a small team here at Bossa, and we've made a game that we're extremely proud of, that wouldn't have been half as good without you. What has been achieved goes toe-to-toe with games that have 5 times the budget, so it's something for each and every one of us to be proud of. Lastly, a game like Lost Skies can never truly be classified as finished. The world has endless possibilities for growth. The bigger the success of 1.0 over the coming months gives us a greater ability to grow that world. We really believe in what we've made, so one last request. Let's try and get as much word of mouth marketing going as possible. Social shares, funny and amazing WoW videos are all welcome. The more eyes on the game, the better. Post 1.0 release, we will continue to keep this community going so we can continue to get feedback and interact with you, hopefully to be able to implement some of those things going forward. From Anthony, head of studio. Now, in addition to this, there's been a lot of buzz, people talking about why the game is releasing when it is, which the devs have also been actively addressing as well. Aside from the pages of bugs that they've fixed and shared in public documents, they've also made numerous posts on the team's opinions specifically regarding how they feel about the current state of the game, where they responded saying, like any development team, we'll always have more ideas we love to add to the game. That said, we are genuinely proud of what our small team has accomplished. The scope of the game is significantly larger than early access, and we focused on stability while fixing dozens of issues reported directly by the community. We're a mix of nervous and excited for everyone to jump in and see the changes for themselves. We sincerely hope the launch goes well and that our team has the opportunity to continue working on Lost Skies, which, in my opinion, to me seems that the devs are in either one of two positions. Either one, running out of money to continue just working on the game, and or, just like we know before, the publisher is once again forcing them to drop it before it's completely ready, as it seems much of the development time has been from trying to fix unprecedented bugs, likely including the many elusive and well-known ones like ship disappearing, alongside corrupted data files, breaking down how they had to rework the entire host-client connection issues, which Tom has made a full post covering in depth, the actual hell of trying to actually detect and fix these issues for 1.0, which, long story short, it seems they want to put in more time into making sure that the 1.0 was bug-free so that new features don't create cascading issues, all for the sake of pushing the development down the pipeline. Hence why they plan to release it early to the open development community to get more iterations on new bugs from the new actual game that's going to come out, which is further supported by another post they made addressing what the future of the game looks like after launch and whether they have plans to fund and develop new content, where they respond saying that our immediate commitment is to support this launch. This includes releasing hotfixes for any urgent issues that might arise, developing a day 30 patch to address early player feedback. While our team are very dedicated to the game and have many ideas for the future of Lost Skies, we are not the biggest team. Post day 30, the development of new major content is dependent on how the commercial success of the full release and its public perception is. We need to see how the game performs and how many players it reaches before we can establish a long-term roadmap, meaning community support will directly affect and influence what comes next. In addition, the devs have also addressed the questions around multiplayer servers, specific whether players have the option to set up dedicated PvP servers, and if there will be a way to increase the player limit in a given session. Here they respond saying, and I quote, "To set clear expectations for the full release on September 17th, dedicated servers, custom server rules including PvP or increased player cap will not be included at launch. The player limit will remain at 6, just as it was in early access. We understand there are important features for many players, and while a firm plan for them depends on how well the launch goes, we want to be transparent that our team is very keen to develop these options, and we know that PvP options are important to some of our community. Between early access and full release, our focus was delivering the core PvE experience that we promised for players, and making that game as fun and as stable as possible. It's high on our list of things that we'd love to work on post-release, if our strong and supportive community continues to grow, which is our hope. Which honestly is really sad to hear. I know many people, myself included, were excited to have full game support made dedicated servers for PvP, in addition to the actual solo and multiplayer function of the game. However, in spite of this response, I do know for a fact, courtesy of modders like Nines and many others among the Lost Skies modding community, that maxing out the player cap is absolutely a function that we can do, as I've made a video on it myself, which comes down to how much your PC can handle, as well as how the game becomes optimized the further we go down the pipeline. So while yes, you can't do this in the base game, I don't think this will stop many of the PvP loving community from making this happen regardless, and while it seems the devs might have run out of time or money to properly implement this function for the game before its actual official release date, they have addressed their opinions on modding. That being, they are very pro modding, even specifically stating that the work from our modding community has been fantastic, and we plan to continue supporting them as they do now in these final weeks before launch, specifically stating that we are in direct communication with mod creators to help them prepare for the update. It's a two-way street, and they are collaborating with us to make sure that their mods are stable and don't cause extra bugs for the community, which they also mentioned that their goal is to make sure that many of the already existing mods for the current early access version of the game don't break on launch day, which if you have any questions on how to use, I have a video in my Discord explaining how to get some of them for yourself very easily, or you can join the more official Lost Skies modding Discord, which I will also have linked below for you to get help in actually doing so. Now, the last thing I do want to mention regarding that final region we've mentioned in previous videos, the devs addressed the question of whether new regions will be added to the island creator, saying that while there are no confirmed plans to expand on the island creator at this time, it's something that the team is prepared for, where they state that they've already developed concepts and art that could become the foundation of the new region. Likely that region 3 that we've seen listed in the actual island creator for the game that has since been locked and unable to be used or have islands made for it by the community. The team's primary focus was getting the game ready for full release, explaining how they'd love the opportunity to expand the world for the island's creator in the future. And that is generally all the main highlights that you need to know for the full launch of Lost Skies. And while there are mounds more to cover in the realm of complex iterative changes and articles from the devs directly on what's been getting worked on, which I do plan to cover more of in a future video that's more in depth than what we've been covering today. In my opinion, given the air around Lost Skies and the struggles of dealing with the publisher, I personally have always loved the concept that the devs of the previous game Worlds Adrift actually left behind. And while it's definitely been an up and down struggle trying to rebuild this game from the ground up, even with the contracted publisher Humble Games pushing releases early in early access and now the official launch, and literally firing 100% of their employees of the publishing company and replacing them with a third-party company, I think Bossa truly did their best to try and rebuild that concept that we all know and love so dearly. So regardless, I truly hope that the devs pull through on this release and that Lost Skies is actually able to succeed enough that the rest of the planned game content can actually get a chance to see the light of day. This game has always held a special place in my heart ever since I was a kid and first saw Worlds Adrift on IGP's channel and became fascinated by the world and interactions of players on islands. Those videos have always left a special place in my heart, and in spite of the struggles, I truly want to see this game succeed more than anything. And in light of this, I will be streaming Lost Skies on the 19th at 6 p.m. CST, and hopefully getting a more interactive chance to play through all of the new Lost Skies game content, where you can ask me any questions that you might have regarding the game. In addition, I'll also be working with the devs to give away 3 keys randomly to people in the community, so if you decide you want to stick around, you might win a free copy of the game. Either way, I truly can't wait to see you all in the skies, and regardless, I hope you all stay healthy and stay well, and like always, have a beautiful rest of your day, boys. Peace.